Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this day after World Contraception Day. My name is Katie Baker, and I am here on behalf of Americans for Contraception. And we are excited to be talking about the stakes of this election when it comes to contraception. This is actually the first presidential election that we've had since the fall of Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision. And for folks who have read the opinion, you may have noted in the concurrence that Justice Clarence Thomas had said the court should reconsider Griswold v. Connecticut, which is the case that protected the right to contraception next. So it is more critical than ever that in the event that this extremist court strikes down Griswold v. Connecticut and our right to contraception, that we have passed legislation at the federal and state levels protecting our right to contraception. Fortunately, there is a bill in U.S. Congress sponsored by Congresswoman Kathy Manning, who is from North Carolina. Unfortunately, 195 House Republicans voted against that bill when it came up in 2022. And since Republicans took control of the House and Congress, Speaker Johnson has not brought it to the floor for a vote. And in the Senate earlier this year, Republicans also blocked that bill from getting to a full floor vote. You need 60 votes for cloture. We picked up a couple Republican votes from Senator Susan Collins and Senator Lisa Murkowski, but we did not have enough votes to pass that Right to Contraception Act in the Senate. So that's why it's more critical than ever that we are sending people to Congress who are going to vote for that bill, and that we are electing Kamala Harris as our next president of the United States so that she can sign that bill. Donald Trump has said that he is looking at restrictions on contraception. He is the person who stacked the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, and he is proud of that. So we really need to be paying attention to who is on our ballot this year. Senator Tim Kaine has been a great champion of contraception and the Right to Contraception Act. His opponent, Hung Kao, is not. In fact, just this past week, or yet last week, he gave a non-answer to the Virginian pilot when asked if he would vote for the Right to Contraception Act, as did Congresswoman Jen Kiggans, who gave some, feel-good language about her support for contraception without explicitly saying whether that she would vote for that bill. And in fact, when she was in the state Senate, she voted against a bill here in Virginia that would have defined contraception to mean any FDA-approved form of contraception. And the bill explicitly said that contraception shall not be considered abortion. So it was a simple bill that she voted against, and that is what is on the ballot this year. So it's my honor to be joined by legislative leaders who are reproductive champions for our right to contraception, as well as advocates and storytellers who are going to talk about why contraception is so important to them. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to the chair of the Virginia Senate Democratic Caucus, Mamie Locke.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you to Americans for Contraception for inviting me to join you here this morning, and good morning to everyone. As Katie mentioned, I'm Mamie Locke, and I chair the Senate Democratic Caucus. I've been in politics long enough to know exactly what kind of people the Republicans have fielded this year as their candidates. Certainly, at the very top of this ticket is Donald Trump, who said there were good people on both sides when actual Nazis rallied in Charlottesville in 2017. And he's proud to have been responsible for the single biggest hit on reproductive rights when he stacked the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade with the Dobbs decision. Right beneath him is Hung Kao, who calls rural Virginia podunk and says that protecting reproductive rights like contraception is just fear-mongering. Like Jen Kiggans, he would not even give a clear answer when asked by the Virginian pilot if he would vote for the Right to Contraception Act. When he pretends not to remember is that MAGA extremists also gaslit us to believe Roe was not truly under threat. But look what happened when they finally took control of the Supreme Court. Roe versus Wade was overturned. And right under him is my former colleague in the Senate, Jen Kiggans. And I know Jen Kiggans. She's so extreme. She voted against a bill in 2020 that would have simply said that birth control is not abortion. It was one of the simplest bills that year that would have made that clarifying language, and she voted no. Why? Because she is a MAGA extremist who disguises herself as a moderate. This is who they are, and we need to believe them by their words and their actions, not by their political maneuvering to avoid being called out for wanting to take away our rights. While Virginia can and will remain a beacon of reproductive freedom in the South, thanks to our strong blue brick wall in the Senate, other Southern states are not as fortunate. States in the South are passing more and more extreme bills aimed at controlling our bodies. That is why we need Congress to act to enshrine federal nationwide protections to ensure everyone can access the health care they need and deserve. And that's why we have to elect Kamala Harris for president, re-elect Tim Kaine to the United States Senate, and elect Missy Carter Smazel to Congress in the 2nd District this November. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senator. And next, I am honored to turn it over to the Senate patron of the state right to contraception bill. She's the chair of the Senate Education and Health Committee, Ghazala Hashmi.
Thank you so much, Katie, and good morning to everyone. And thank you for joining us today. My name is Senator Ghazala Hashmi, and I am the chair of the Virginia Senate Education and Health Committee. You know, yesterday was World Contraception Day, and we marked that by recommitting ourselves to the fight for bodily autonomy. And this fight is very much alive here in Virginia. This past year, Delegate Sia Price and I introduced legislation to protect the access to contraception through the Virginia Right to Contraception Act. And while that bill passed both of our chambers, unfortunately, Governor Glenn Youngkin decided to veto it because he wanted to listen to the most extreme wing of his political party, which continues to conflate contraception with abortion. You know, Virginia remains at the whim of the Supreme Court of the United States, and the sitting Supreme Court Justice Judge Clarence Thomas, who made it clear this past decision with the Dobbs decision, that he made it clear that he is coming for access to contraception next. Since Virginia's Republican governor has blocked our shot at protecting the right to contraception, it's now even more important that we pass the federal Right to Contraception Act, which is sponsored by Congresswoman Kathy Manning and Senator Ed Markey. But to do that, we must make sure that we are sending Senator Tim Kaine back to Washington, and we also need a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives who will actually bring this bill to the floor, because Speaker Mike Johnson has not even given it a chance for a vote. And so that means we must elect Missy Carter Smazel in the 2nd Congressional District, because she will protect our reproductive freedom. We know where Missy stands, and we know where Senator Tim Kaine stands. But just last week, in an article published by the Virginia Pilot, both Hung Kao and Congresswoman Jen Kiggans refused to answer. They couldn't even give us an answer of whether or not they would vote for the Federal Right to Contraception Act. And their party's standard bearer is no better. Donald Trump has gone so far as to say that he was, quote unquote, looking at restrictions on contraception. And his own former staff authored Project 2025, which would actually end free coverage to emergency contraception for over 48 million women in the country. So that's the post-Roe world that we're living in today. It's a world in which more and more of our reproductive rights are under threat, and our children face the reality of growing up with fewer rights and fewer freedoms than we had. As long as I am chair of the Senate Education and Health Committee, Virginia will not go back. But we need a Congress to act as well. And that's why I will be leaving it all on the field to ensure that we hold the Senate and flip the U.S. House. And that starts with letting voters know just how out of touch Hung Kao and Congresswoman Jen Kiggans are when it comes to our reproductive freedom. And so I'm proud to be here today to do just that so that we can elect Kamala Harris, Tim Kaine, and Missy Cotter Smazel this November. And that way we can finally pass the Federal Right to Contraception Act. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator, and thank you for being such a tremendous champion of that legislation in the Senate with Delegate Price. And next, I want to recognize one of American for Contraception's great partners here in Virginia, who has been doing the work on the ground for years, Jamie Lockhart of Planned Parenthood.
Thank you so much, Katie. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to join Senators Locke and Hashmi and advocates this morning, just after World Contraception Day yesterday. As Katie said, I'm Jamie Lockhart, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as Executive Director of Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia. We recognize that contraception is essential for people to control their lives and make informed choices about their reproductive health. We're working for a world where contraception is widely available, free from stigma and discrimination, and meets the needs of all people. A vision that expands access to contraception and ensures people can make their own decisions about their health, their bodies, and their futures. But let's not kid ourselves. This vision is constantly under attack. The freedom to choose whether to use an IUD, implant, condoms, or pills is a deeply personal one, yet this fundamental right faces unprecedented threats. The Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade, has ignited a wave of efforts across the United States to limit not only abortion access, but also contraception. By dismantling the constitutional right to abortion, the ruling has emboldened anti-reproductive health advocates to target other aspects of reproductive health care. In several states, lawmakers are pushing to restrict access to contraceptives, especially emergency contraceptives and IUDs. These actions represent a growing threat to birth control access, raising alarms about broader efforts to undermine reproductive rights and personal freedoms. As a result, millions of Americans now face uncertainty about their ability to access basic healthcare services that have long been considered fundamental. What those who attack contraception fail to understand is that contraception is not just about preventing pregnancy. It helps manage endometriosis, PCOS, hormone imbalances, period cramps, acne, and even reduces the risk of cervical and ovarian cancer. Contraception is key. It's key to the economic empowerment of all people, giving them the ability to better control their bodies and futures. These are deeply personal medical decisions, and politicians have no business inserting themselves into these matters. Americans do not deserve to live with the uncertainty and chaos that comes with regular attacks on essential health care. We must pass a federal right to contraceptive act and the Virginia Right to Contraceptive Act to protect our fundamental rights and ensure healthcare decisions are made between individuals and their providers, not politicians. Let's commit every day to safeguarding reproductive freedom for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you for all the work that you've been doing in this space. And our speaker spoke a bit about how people use contraception, not just for family planning, but to manage other health conditions. And we have a storyteller here, Val Watkins from Loudoun County, who is going to be sharing her story of contraception. Val.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning. I want to start by thanking again, because I can never thank enough, the Americans for Contraception for their advocacy on the Right to Contraception Act. Thank you for inviting me here today, and to all the political leaders here fighting the good fight. My name is Valeshka Watkins, but everybody calls me Val, and so should you. I am one of the 20% of U.S. women who suffer from adenomyosis. It is similar to endometriosis in that the uterine lining grows where it shouldn't, in my case, instead of growing outside of the uterus, it grows into the walls of the uterus, into those muscles. It makes my menstrual cycles and just my menstrual health very difficult to manage, absent access to different forms of contraception that I have used throughout my life. When I have not have access to these, it has caused severe pain, excessive bleeding, and some complications that have threatened my health at different points in time. I use contraception and hormonal treatments for adenomyosis, but even before I developed adenomyosis, I have throughout my life suffered from ovarian cysts and uterine polyps. And so from before I ever engaged in any type of sexual conduct, I already had a doctor prescribe contraception, the pill, to help me manage all those symptoms so that I could be a normal teenager, a woman able to go to school, to work, that I would not be able to do a lot of these things without those types of hormonal regimes and regulations. I could give you many different examples of how adenomyosis and the lack of treatment at certain points in my life has affected me, but I think the most striking and the one that really sets the stage for why I'm such a strong advocate for access to all types of contraception and hormone regulation for women was an experience that I had while I was in law school. I was studying for finals one day, and unfortunately at the time I didn't have health insurance, didn't have access to the medical care I needed. And so my polyps and cysts and my condition was going unregulated. As I was studying one day, I felt horrible pain. I felt dizzy and chills, and I realized that I just started bleeding. By the time I stood up, there was blood gushing down my legs. Luckily, I was not alone, so my friend was able to take me to the hospital. Now, because reproductive health in women is just always so complicated and so political, once I got to the hospital, there was quite a commotion because they wanted to figure out whether what was happening to me was that I was experiencing complications from an elective abortion, and they wouldn't even touch me until they could confirm that that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. I wasn't sexually active at the time. So they confirmed this, but by the time they confirmed it, I had lost so much blood that I needed blood transfusions. And it took me about 2 weeks to become strong enough to then go into a surgery that would help reconstruct and heal my uterus. Clearly from there, I was given the resources to, again, be able to manage and improve my health. But the consequences of these events really were life-changing because my uterus was so mangled from the experience and the lack of care that I lost a significant part of it, which meant that I could not later in life carry a full-term pregnancy. When I got pregnant with my son, I had to go through a C-section earlier than recommended for his delivery, just so that it wouldn't imperil my life and probably his if a certain tragedy or emergency occurred towards the end of the pregnancy. I believe that without access to contraception and hormone regulation, this would be the rule, the case for so many other women out there. So it is imperative that we allow women to make the choices that are best for their health, to be able to choose along with their doctor whether it will be an IUD with the hormonal release, whether it will be the pill, whatever it is that is best for the physiognomy and their state in life. Without these kinds of choices, I wouldn't have been able to become a successful professional. And I know that's the case for many women, so that if we believe that women deserve success, if we believe that women deserve to achieve their dreams, then we have to make sure that their health care includes reproductive health care of whatever kind they need. I really want to make sure that everyone out there listening knows that we need to elect individuals who understand how complex the reproductive life of women is, that there are things that we need that cannot be taken away from us simply based on someone's extreme political views of our roles in life or what we deserve. Again, please, it's important that we elect officials that are going to support, whether at the local level or at the federal level, the Right to Contraception Act. And that will not simply deny women the access to healthcare that we need, because I know it's affected me greatly when I didn't have access to the treatment I needed, and I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone else based on someone else's ideas of the proper way to correct or manage these types of reproductive problems. Thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it back to Katie.
Thank you so much, Val, and thank you for your willingness to share that story. And women shouldn't have to share our stories of what contraception means to us, but it's at stake right now. So thank you. It's incredible story, and I'm going to turn it over to another woman with a very powerful story who lives in Virginia Beach in Congresswoman Kagan's district, Olivia Raposa.
Hello. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming. My name is Olivia Raposa, and since 2009, I had been a sex trafficking victim. Today, now I can call myself a survivor. I'm grateful for contraception in any form, condoms, birth control, Plan B, etc., because we can start with the fact that while effective, condoms are never 100% reliable. And with the amount of risky behaviors that I was forced into and involved in, I couldn't imagine not having been on birth control as well as using condoms. I didn't know any at all of the people that I was sexually active with for years. And I couldn't even imagine if a condom had failed and I was to get pregnant by a man that I didn't even know the name of. Imagine how that could feel for someone, you know, embarrassing, shameful, resentful, even so. I had my freedom taken away for over a decade of my life, and I feel like not supporting or not passing a law that protects someone's rights to their body and choice, it feels like stripping away someone's freedom. I was sexually assaulted in previous years of my life, and I was able to handle my situation that I was in due to it being somebody that was extremely close family member. If that wasn't possible, it would have completely changed the entirety of my life. It would have made things extremely difficult. And like I said, I always use these words like shameful, because for women, we get put in predicaments that we necessarily don't want to be in. And we're always the ones that have to take the brunt of it. And I know I'm not the only woman who has had horrific experiences with these types of traumas. And I understand that people's points of views and beliefs on these topics are very touchy, but I'm just here to voice my opinion and my experiences in hopes that delegates and legislators will reconsider supporting and passing a bill of this stature, because it feels like it's just right. And I feel like it is right to give somebody that voice and that choice of their body. And I am in Representative Kagan's district in Virginia Beach, and I am extremely curious to know why she wouldn't commit to voting for the Right to Contraception Act. I would love to know her answer. So if we could maybe someday get one, that would be great. So, yep, that's just my voice, my opinion, and I hope that these stories get heard and that people reconsider this bill for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia. We would like an answer from her too. But thank you for your willingness to share your story of survival. You have a powerful voice, and I'm glad that we could amplify it here today. And with that, I wanted to give any press on the call an opportunity to ask any questions. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and close this out. I'll have the recording available for folks afterward, but just want to thank everyone so much for taking the time to be on this call and to recognize the importance of World Contraception Day and what's at stake in this election and why we need to elect Vice President Harris and Senator Tim Kaine, as well as Missy Cotters Mazel to Congress. Thank you so much.